again. Just write it.
Oh, this one. Okay.
I'm Mark Rial.
I'm Aaron Alfred.
Today's day number 3 at the YMC, and the discussion for today is design.
What is design?
I believe design is communication, removing the blocks between the person and the product service that they're trying to achieve, and bringing them together, using as little processes, materials as possible. So.
My name's Dan Jacob, and I work at TELUS in event marketing. I've used Photoshop, I've used like some basic HTML editors, but nothing too sort of complex. I think my hope here with the course is to figure out better ways to use those tools and kind of understand like more trends in the industry as well.
Welcome to day number 3, season 4 at the YMC. Today is the first day where we're really going to be getting hands-on with some particular programs. In particular, we'll be looking at Photoshop, and time permitting, we'll be taking a peek over at Illustrator. Everything that goes into developing those initial things on our development machine, we're going to start taking a peek at those areas. And I am happy to be joined by the man over here, Aaron Alfred. Some people have had a chance to use Photoshop before. It's kind of like the go-to tool for a lot of just general image manipulation. But some of you may not have had experience with it for like building interfaces and interface design. So that's where Alfred's going to come in and shed some light on that.
My name is Hazel. Still a student at York, still doing business and marketing, and I'm back because I'm really interested in this whole design aspect.
I remember you said you were into photography, so have you used Photoshop a lot for that?
I have, yeah. So like they were mentioning before, it's really good in terms of photo editing. So I do a lot of that in Photoshop. So learning about this, how I can incorporate into making a website, was key for me today.
So one of the things, like in different projects, sometimes they'll have pre-existing branding that we'll have to work with, right? So logos, typography, and that kind of thing. But a lot of times what ends up getting delivered to you is the
brief.
Yeah, the brief. So I guess maybe if you want to kind of go over what gets handed off to you or what you need to get started in with doing your job.
Ultimately, I get a brief. We could get logos, so that's sort of optional, because sometimes we get that later in the process. We get a description of the who, what, where, why, when of the company, so I'm understanding the brand identity. A goal, because it's all goal-based, right? We're not just building it because we're obligated to build for the web. The medium. So will this be on the computer? What browsers are we targeting? Mobile environments, those kind of things. A lot of times I'll get an existing a website, so I would group that in something I call collateral. So that could be pamphlets, business cards, this, that, whatever. That's more or less where I begin.
My name is Naeem Lakhani. I'm working on a project called Foursquare Canada. It's like a side project I'm doing outside of my job, and I feel like this will give me some background and some hands-on experience to work with the other guy who's developing the site for us. Well, it's just been good to see the design process, or the way to come up and storyboard or thumbnail these things. We found when coming up with ideas, it just they race through your minds. There's so many different things, and without getting them on paper in a structured or organized way, then it's hard to keep track. So this is really helping with that process.
Okay. So we're designing. What you see on here is just the elements. These are things that you're going to receive from your project manager, or if you're working for yourself, these are things that you're going to have to consider when putting your website together. All they are pieces of the puzzle, Lego blocks. So ultimately we're building a wireframe. It's very costly in this field to build without a plan. So a lot of my work goes into the planning stage, and I do that by using or creating wireframes. So today I'm going to be showing you all these things, how to use layers, guides, how to make sure that all your elements are lined up the way they are, measured, perfect, branding the wireframe. So, you know, logo, does it look like the company? Does it represent the company? Say I want to build a website for people who enjoy the shopping channel. I probably would get on my phone and be like, hey mom, I'm going to build you a website. And then I would ask her a few questions. On this website, if I included this element, say like a video, right? Or let's just get visual with this, okay. So if I had a video on here, does that speak truth to you? Will you respond to that? And if she says, well, Aaron, yeah, I like videos because I'm watching the shopping channel and that's how I digest my information. So yeah, I would like that, okay? That's an element. Then if I said, hey mom, I'm going to include a Twitter feed on this. It's possible that she could say, I don't even use Twitter. So I wouldn't include that, or I would put that on a lower priority. So you kind of get that understanding that I'm testing the person who's going to use that, you know, website. I'm testing all these elements, measuring it by the way that they use the internet.
One of the benefits of Illustrator is that it's all kind of part of the same parcel. So if you become familiar with the toolbars in Photoshop, like kind of getting going with Illustrator isn't too much trouble beyond that. The main difference is the difference between vector illustration and bitmap. A lot of times what you'd find is Illustrator would be used for logos, anything kind of typography and vector graphics and stuff like that, whereas Photoshop will often be used for like raster imagery, taking photos and refining and editing photos. What Illustrator is used for is just laying down points, and then the program itself actually calculates the math in between those points. Animation and stuff like that, a lot of times Illustrator will be the go-to tool to make that vector animation so you can scale in, pan out. Like a lot of even cartoons these days, they'll actually be done in Flash. I was actually surprised when I saw the list of cartoons, like rather than any other types of programs, something that comes with all this stuff here. It's done in Flash. Silverlight's the same thing. A lot of sophisticated animations can get done in those, and they're all based on vector.
Design is extremely important for a website because I think I know at least for me, when I see the website and it doesn't look legitimate and it doesn't look like people have put thought into it, I leave. It's kind of your gate to the rest of the story you want to tell viewers, the content. So it's important that you can attract them in that way with good design.
So please welcome Puleen Patel. Thank you for coming to
Thank you.
the YMC.
Thank you. Thank you.
Keynote today was Puleen Patel coming in to talk about security. It was really an incredible conversation because that's one thing I don't know too much about myself, and just another example of why it's so great to be able to have guest speakers come in and do their thing.
So everybody probably knows a lot about security. Security is always prevalent in our life, whether it's personal security, security of our content, security of our phone, security of our wallet, security of our money, everything, right? So when we look at the map of the web, and the way I've aligned this with security is, as we go into this mobile space, as we start having conversations over the internet, as we start having conversations using things like Facebook, using things like Twitter, using things like email, instant messaging, web technologies, all kinds of stuff, we have a lot of infrastructure that actually makes all of these things happen. Security is always done in layers. You have physical security, you'll have the software and application security, and then you'll have the channel security. When you build an application in the web world, a lot of these applications need to have infrastructure, servers. Most of the time, if you're a small company or if you're an independent developer or you're just starting off, you may not have all of that manpower and the economies of scale to actually put it in a large data center and make sure that it's secured. But you'd still put it in a secured location where nobody else can get to it, whether it's your parents' basement or your basement, whether it's in a closet that you have sitting in your den or somewhere. But you're trying to keep that secured because whatever graphics you're designing, whatever code that you're implementing, whatever kind of things that you're implementing, those are all intellectual property that belongs to you. And you wouldn't want to have that get out there to somebody so somebody can steal it and all that. Same thing with software and applications. So a lot of times when you write applications, we put controls in there that say, nobody else should be able to actually go and look at the code. What they would see is the nice, pretty front end, and how when you go to Amazon and you look at, I want to click this button and add this shopping cart. There's code that goes behind it, and all of that code is intellectual property. And then the channel is
when you try to access that Amazon website, there's a lot of security actually coming into play right there and then. So let's look at a web application, Gmail, for example. And how does Gmail work? In order for Gmail to actually run, you're going to have some sort of, a server. And this server is housed in what we call a data center. So, somewhere in California or in England or somewhere in Germany, there are a bunch of data centers that Google has where there's millions and millions of these servers that run and power Gmail. So what they do is, when we talk about over here physical assets, this server has to be physically secured so that nobody can get to it. So what do they have? They have, different kinds of things. They have actual, the premises is secured. Then they have other things that do actually monitoring. So they actually monitor the actual servers. So if this server actually was pulled out and somebody actually unplugged it and tried to walk away with it, there's probably some trigger or some alert that goes to someone that says, hey, there's a breach of security because this server isn't supposed to be online. Once you have the data center and once you have the server, you then have the firewall. What it really means is they have a bunch of servers just like this that are doing one thing and one thing alone. They are monitoring this connection that's coming in. They're analyzing that connection and saying, hey, are you trying to do something bad, or are you actually trying to do something good? If you're going to try doing something bad, I'm going to kick you out. So you better tell me whether you're doing something bad or good.
Yeah, it was fun, man. Finally got our hands on some production programs there. Finally got to tear into a program and show some techniques. Last week we talked about wireframes and stuff like that, and site planning and those types of strategy things. And today was about starting to discuss implementing the branding on it. Right? So colors, starting to discuss placement of logo and that kind of thing. So trying to incorporate the look and the style and the feel of the site in the actual planning.